What is going on, guys? My name is Nicholas Mainous, and this is the first episode of the Main Review Podcast, where I'm going to talk about sports, football, basketball, mostly professional, NFL, NBA, and I'm going to touch on a little bit of college football as well. And who knows what other sports? I mean, if there's some interesting stuff going on in the world of sports, then we'll touch on it and, dive into it. So, we got a full slate of NFL games, full Sunday. Let's go over it. And then we got Anthony Davis just coming back from the dead, just straight up deciding, hey, I'm gonna try now. I tweeted that after I saw he scored 55 points. That was ridiculous. Like, it's so crazy how a player can just turn it on. He's like, and that's how you know really Anthony Davis is a great top 10 player. He's just great because he has that ability to where he's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna do what I have to do, and I'm gonna get back to my A+ game. And we're seeing that unfold. So we'll see. And the Lakers been climbing too. If you look at the Western Conference standings, there are a wide range of teams that are within like 3 or 4 games of each other. The whole thing could just completely shift and change in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how far the Lakers can move up and ultimately see if they can make the playoffs. Obviously make the play-in. Yeah, you got to make the play-in at least. And I think they will make the play-in because, as long as Anthony Davis stays healthy and he stays on track of what he's doing. Obviously, he's not going to drop 55 every night, but LeBron dropped 29 last night too. And even Russ, he's had 2 straight games, the only 2 games in his whole career right now with 0 turnovers, back-to-back games, the only time he's done that in his career. Crazy. And it's like one of those things with Russ where, I mean, didn't we all know he just needed to go to the bench? Didn't we all know he just needed to play on the bench and not be in the same rotation as LeBron and AD so that he could handle the ball, so that he could play? He can't play alongside LeBron in the starting lineup, but he can be on the same team and be on the bench. And Russell Westbrook's not what he was, but he can still play, still athletic. He can still distribute the ball. He can still get to the rim. So I think that the Lakers look promising, and they probably will have to make some type of trade. But I don't think that means trading Russ. And I don't know exactly what kind of package they would put together that would be outside of trading Russ. But I think that if they make AD number one, which he has been, he's the number one. And that's kind of what we all were talking about new before the Lakers got AD and LeBron. When they did anyways, LeBron was going to be number one for a certain amount of years until he couldn't carry a team anymore and he couldn't be the number one guy. And then Anthony Davis would have learned from LeBron, won the championship, maybe 2, only won 1. And then he would assume that number one role. And that, it's kind of crazy because if AD, let's say the Lakers, what are people going to say if the Lakers are back in the playoffs, they win a round of basketball? If the Lakers make the playoffs and they win a first round matchup, I guarantee people are going to say after that they're going to possibly make the Western Conference. I mean, obviously they'd be 1 series away, but I think the Lakers, if they keep the same formula of what they've been doing, it seems as if they like their head coach. Well, I think that they would be just fine. I think they're in better shape than the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Ben Simmons is becoming more of what he was. And you have Kevin Durant, but we haven't seen Kevin Durant win a championship in chaos without Golden State. And I'm not taking those championships away from him. He did that. He went there. He won. He did it. He was part of a winning culture. And I understand, yes, he did go to a stacked team, but at the end of the day, in human reality, if you think, I just want to go work in a better organization with better coworkers, better run management. Yes, there were other organizations with that, but that's the decision KD made. And now I think people are waking up to the fact that KD was never better than LeBron when he won those titles. And this is why. Think about LeBron takes the Cavs, that dysfunctional organization with barely, especially the last year he was in Cleveland. Yes, he had K-Love, but he wasn't what he was. And he's because, Kevin Love is stepping into a different role now, which is why I think, in that bench role, just as if Westbrook, like he stepped in the bench role, Kevin Love is, he's more of a relevant player again because of the role he's taken. However, back to what I'm saying, anyways, LeBron didn't have a Steph, a Clay, a Draymond, even well, they didn't have Harrison Barnes because Harrison Barnes went to the Mavs. But besides the point, LeBron carried that Cavs team to the finals. KD with Kyrie Irving and James Harden couldn't make a conference. He's won one playoff series since he's been there. One. And if LeBron was in his prime and he was on that Nets team, you bet they would be going to the finals. Prime LeBron, yes, they would be going to the finals, and KD can't take them to the finals, which is why he is not better than LeBron James. He might be a better player as of right now because LeBron is older and he is coming into his age. However, he's still like a 20, 25 point a game scorer. KD, and I'm not taking away anything KD did or what he is as a player, but when you're talking greatest players ever, LeBron, Michael Jordan, whatever order, more of the population will say Michael Jordan. And I think that, Joe Money and I were talking about how different eras have different GOATs. Okay. And obviously you can look at the grand scheme of things. I think that the only couple of for certain GOATs that we have in each respected sport is Tom Brady with 7 Super Bowls. You can't, regardless if Patrick Mahomes one day might be, he's obviously more athletic, can make more magical plays. And Tom was more, I don't know exactly the playing style. I can't put a word on Tom's playing style exactly. But at the end of the day, Tom is the GOAT because of the 7 Super Bowls. That's what you have to do at the end of the day is win. It's going to be almost impossible, but I don't think it will be impossible because it's like the 4-minute mile, right? Someone wins a 4-minute mile once, they can do it, then you see more. So I think that people will accumulate more championships, but maybe not 7 like Tom. However, just as like what were we talking here? Oh, GOATs. That's right. So Tom Brady, NFL GOAT, and then Wayne Gretzky, NHL GOAT. I don't follow hockey like that, but I've seen certain records that he's broken and how untouchable he's Wayne Gretzky. But with the NBA, it's like you have Michael Jordan, who people say is the GOAT. You have LeBron, who people say is the GOAT. You have people who say Kareem's the GOAT. You have people of different eras saying that different people are different GOATs. It's just more or less the collective population probably thinks that Michael Jordan is the GOAT. But is he? You can look at it from any certain perspective. Some people have Kobe as their GOAT. Kobe. They're just all different players, and it's hard to say when you have them playing in different eras against different competition and all of this. So you just gotta learn to take these players for what they are, appreciate their greatness, and see, and then you make your own list of rankings or whatever, or however you want to do it. Anyways, we're gonna transition to the NFL because we had a big Sunday yesterday. Deshaun Watson played his first game back with Cleveland. They beat the Texans. Didn't have a great game. Threw for like 130 yards, no touchdowns, a pick. And he, didn't look good. He didn't look good because obviously it was his first game back in 2 years. And I think that he will. It seems as if after the game, his enthusiasm towards the team and where they're going, and they did win at the end of the day. They beat the worst team in the league. But the Texans, you have to admit, they probably played a little harder of a game because they were playing Deshaun. They had something to play for, more or less. I mean, what are they going to play for now? They're eliminated from playoff competition. They're just at this point losing for the number 1 seed. But I think we'll see Deshaun develop into maybe not what he was, but he'll be better than Jacoby Brissett. He might not be. I just don't know if he'll be playing to that $230 million guaranteed contract. Is he that player? That was, I believe, a desperation move made by Cleveland because they have all this talent. They need to go and get an elite quarterback. He was there. No one else was going to give him that money. It just worked out the way it did. And now we'll see if Deshaun can get them to Super Bowl level play. It's going to take some time. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year. But I think it's like when Jimmy G's hurt, he just got hurt, broken foot, out for the season. But when he first went to San Francisco, the last 5 games of his first year, they went 5-0. He played fantastic, and he gave them life and juice for the next season. And that next season, I believe they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. However, I think that Deshaun Watson, if he can get some good wins, if he can slowly progress and develop, I don't think Stefanski's getting fired this year, as long as they don't go, who knows. I think, if they finish 1 game, 2 games under 500 because of Jacoby Brissett playing and just other things going on, I think Kevin gets 1 more year, and I think he should get 1 more year. because he should. I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, and I think that he can work with an elite quarterback and, have better outcomes in their game. So we'll see. I think that if they can pick up some wins until the end of the season, build momentum, they'll be just fine in the future. But not gonna put any guarantees on that because we know how Cleveland has been in the past with quarterbacks, and it's just going to come down to if Deshaun can play or not. So we will see. And then I think from what I took from yesterday, out of the whole slate of games, I watched the end of that Bengals Chiefs game. I didn't watch the beginning of it because I was doing something and I was hanging out with some friends on the beach. And nevertheless, besides the point, the Bengals Chiefs, okay? The Bengals are the second best team in the AFC. Now, I'm going to say the Chiefs even though the Bengals won yesterday, they were in Cincinnati. Yes, the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs 3 straight times, and that will end at some point. Mahomes will beat Burrow. But I think this just shows that Burrow is the second best QB, and he's the second best team in the AFC. Regardless of regular season, let's look at what he's done compared to, say, the Bills and Josh Allen. So the Bills have never beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Bills have made the conference championship once and lost to the Chiefs. The Bengals have gone into Arrowhead, come back on Mahomes with Burrow, and led them to the Super Bowl, which he then did lose. But he is showing now, even after that wasn't a fluke from last year. The Bengals were not a fluke. They were them, and they were just coming into their form. And so Jamar Chase is back. They have Higgins, Mixon, their second best running back yesterday. Mixon out. They're establishing a run game. I think he had over 100 yards, or he's averaging. Let's see what exactly he's averaging. But obviously, and the Bengals have been a dysfunctional, bad organization for who knows how long now. I mean, they've had, Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer, and they've been competitive. But this team and Joe Burrow, he's really that. And to go into an organization like Cincinnati with the dysfunction, with all of the bad juju and turmoil from the past years of not being successful, he now steps in there. And in his second year, after that being last year, his second year after he missed half of the season with that really bad injury. And I remember at the beginning of the season last year, people were like, oh, will Burrow be the same QB? Oh, will he's been playing in practice and he just doesn't look like himself. Jamar Chase is dropping footballs, and now look at what they're doing. It's all about what you see on the field. Not only when you see on the field playoffs, and the fact that he doesn't matter how you win. If you do win, that's all that matters. If you win the game, and Joe Burrow wins games, they win games altogether. They play very well. Dysfunctional organization, Joe Burrow took them to the Super Bowl. Now, with Josh Allen, yes, the Bills, over the past 20 years, because of Brady's dynasty and Belichick, they have not been what they are. And that is not just to say because of Brady and Belichick, but they're a big part of it. But it's people that are running the organization, coaches, players, they just were not good. And so Josh Allen comes in from Wyoming, and he gets this great coach, Sean McDermott. And he takes an organization that's been bad for 20 years and is not, and now they're good, right? But they've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season, but they've shown inconsistency, I believe. So at the beginning of the season, they're this dominant. They're the best, as Colin Cowherd says, the best knockout punch in the NFL, right? When they're at their ceiling, if they're scoring, it's going to be very hard to beat them. Yes, they've been playing in closer games, but I believe they're a little more inconsistent than the Bengals. And now you see that the Bengals are on a roll. They're getting good at the best time you need to get good during the season. Nick Wright says that from First Things First, he says the Bills are the Super Bowl champions of September, right? Because they played the best early on. And I think that people would say that about the Eagles now, but I think because the Eagles just had a giant win yesterday, it seemed as if they started a little slow in the beginning of the game, and it was a closer game. They played Tennessee. And yeah, so it was 35-10 at halftime. Well, they picked it up in the second half. It was 21-10. But yeah, Jalen Hurts for 3 touchdowns, 380 yards. And I think that because they're picking it up again. Yes, no team is going to be absolutely perfect. And I think that is a little irritating and frustrating with the media in a sense where it's like you see that a team like the Eagles are doing really well. Okay. And then people think they may be a tad overrated because of the teams they beat, whatever. If they win, you win, And I think that Jalen Hurts is very promising. They have weapons. You can see it on the field. The eye test is a real thing with the Eagles. And yes, the last 2 weeks or so, they weren't, doing the greatest, but they still were winning games. The Eagles, you are, of course, at some point, there's going to be a part of the season where you're not playing up to par, that you're going to have a low point, and it's hard to keep that. I mean, and they have not succeeded over the past few years. The Eagles, they were the 7th seed last year. This has been a slowly progressive thing. So now they're doing well. Of course, they're going to come back down the hill a little bit, but then they're going to learn from being back down the hill and go back up the hill, as I think you saw yesterday with that 35-10 win over the Tennessee. And the Tennessee Titans, take it for what you will. I don't believe that they're a playoff team. I mean, they are a playoff team, but they're not going to win any games in the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. They're solid. I think that the Titans kind of the Steelers in a sense, where the Steelers used to be this team that you would just assume they're making the playoffs. They're a tough team to play in the regular season. Mike Tomlin, Mike Vrabel, kind of the same tough, got your back team player guy. And those are two guys that you want to rally behind, and they always get you to the playoffs. But beyond that, and that could be because Tennessee just doesn't have an elite quarterback, and we'll see what Malik Willis develops into being. And I don't see Malik Willis being elite like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, because you just know with certain guys like Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, and they stepped on the field. You could say Josh Allen kind of, sort of, but Josh Allen was doing certain things like jumping over people that people hadn't seen. Like those three guys, you see them play and you're like, they are them. They are them. And I think Trevor Lawrence is another exception. And I think, Trevor Lawrence is tricky because I think he's playing at elite, like not elite level, but he's playing really good right now. It's just you see him make these spectacular plays, but we'll just see what he can do with Burrow and Allen did and elevate dysfunctional organizations like the Jaguars. And I think that he's got the right coach, a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think that the Jaguars next season, it's going to be make or break. It's going to be make or break. And I think that applies for the Lions as well. And I think Jared Goff has been playing well. And I think he's a good starting quarterback. Like, he could be like a Kirk Cousins or a Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think if the Lions they have I forget they have the Rams first round pick, and it could end up being a top 3 pick. And I could see the Lions making a move on an elite young quarterback, maybe a Bryce Young. The thing is, the quarterbacks are going to be good this year. You got Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, solid guys. But Caleb Williams next year, whoever gets Caleb Williams, that is the next. He's the next one. He's the one. I don't think, I've heard people compare him to Mahomes on the media, but obviously you see Caleb Williams and what he's capable of doing like Mahomes. He won't be Mahomes. He will be Caleb Williams. Whatever that is, we'll find out. And it obviously depends on his landing spot. And people said last year, I mean, with Justin Fields, I honestly, you think that Kyle Shanahan's not sitting there right now watching Justin Fields play? And he's like, damn, that could. And that's the thing. Yes, Ohio State quarterbacks have this element of they had very great wide receivers in college. Like, quarterbacks can come from anywhere. Just because they come from Ohio State, Alabama, does not mean they're going to be successful, clearly. When has the last Ohio State quarterback ever been successful in the NFL? Here's the answer. Never. So Justin Fields, yes, I could see, okay, you see an Ohio State quarterback, they may not be successful. But you got to think, Kyle Shanahan's sitting there right now with injured Jimmy Garoppolo, injured Trey Lance. So we have no idea what Trey Lance is like possible. Like, what? I just don't see that working. It's just the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation. He has played at North Dakota State. Yes, they're a good program, but how many years has it been since he's played? And playing in practice is not the same as a game. You got to get out on the field, and he's hurt. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's probably thinking, I should have drafted Justin Fields. Like, Justin Fields is him. And could you imagine if he did? Imagine if Justin Fields is doing what he is right now on that 49ers team with that 49ers defense. He's got to be sitting there thinking they could be a number 1 seed. They could be Super Bowl. I mean, yes, they could still win the Super Bowl. We'll see what Brock Purdy can do. People come out of nowhere all the time. Look at Mike White. Dak Prescott was a 5th-round pick. Russell Wilson, he's terrible now, but when he got drafted to the Seahawks, he was good as well. So we'll see what happens with the 49ers. But I'm just like, even last year, I wanted Justin Fields because I'm an Ohio State fan. And I wanted to see him in a good situation. Like, I thought that if he went to the 49ers, that would be perfect. And then it's just crazy, like Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Like, yes, these are good athletes. And Josh Allen's the exception. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, coming from Texas Tech and Wyoming for Josh Allen. But it's just interesting how these NFL experts will just come out of nowhere with some random quarterback and be like, yeah, he's the one, like Zach Wilson. It was just Trevor Lawrence was one, which I understood because of his, tangibles, his intangibles, his success as a quarterback. But then it's just like Zach Wilson. He has one good year. He goes to BYU. They play nobody. When he plays somebody that has a winning record or is like a better school, he plays a terrible game, and then he's this all guaranteed second overall pick. Just like Trey Lance, I saw him play in North Dakota State. We saw him play in North Dakota State, and he played 1, maybe 2 years. I'm not totally sure. But how do you see that? And you're like, yes, out of all the players you could select, out of every single person that is available, that's experienced, that you can't just look at a player and just because of what they look like and how they play, there's much more to the equation than just, and I think Trey Lance has both the intangibles and tangibles to be a successful quarterback. It's just, I mean, I don't know. So we'll just see how that unfolds. And I'm rooting for Trey Lance. I want to see him succeed. I don't want to see people not succeed. It's like at this point, like I had like my teams, like my certain teams. But at the same time, I see players that I like and I like what they stand for and I like, how they carry themselves and their team guys. And it's just they play the game the right way, like Mahomes and Herbert and Allen and Burrow, regardless of where you rank them all. I mean, they're just all hard guys to root against, and coming into, being when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I have my favorite team. My favorite team, it's competitive. Everyone has their team and you want to beat your friends' teams and all that. And I think in a sense, myself as a fan, I've grown out of that, not because my certain teams don't do well, because I do root for my team still. Like I want my teams to be successful, but I want to see greatness. Like I want to be a part of witnessing players win championships upon championships. Not that that would be my favorite team, but of course I want to see Patrick Mahomes succeed. I want to see Justin Herbert succeed. I want to see the best quarterbacks in the NFL play each other. And I want my team to have one of those quarterbacks to find their guy. But if they're not playing, then it's like, what am I just watching the game? Like I want to see certain players succeed. And it helped me appreciate Tom Brady's greatness a little more when he did leave and won a championship for the Buccaneers, because it's like, wow, this man just literally went from an organization where he's been a part of for 20 years, won 6 Super Bowls, goes to this organization that's a terrible success. They haven't been run well since the Gruden days when they won that Super Bowl in like 02. And then Tom Brady goes there and he wins. And I think it's funny because from what I heard, the media and just fans on social media and people I've talked to, they would be like, oh, Brady's a system quarterback. Okay, Brady's a system quarterback. Brady's a system quarterback. Bill Belichick is the guy that's calling the plays. He's the man. I'm like, okay, hold up. Brady is out there making the plays. At the end of the day, the players, it starts with the players. Yes, you have your coaches. Yes, you have your front office. Excuse me. But the players are out there. Tom Brady is the one throwing the football. He is the one out there every single second on that field, taking the hits, throwing the ball, making the reads, playing the game. Yes, Bill Belichick is the greatest NFL coach of all time. But when Brady went to Tampa Bay and did that, people realized, okay, Bill, it wasn't just all Bill. But then people would say it was all Brady, but it wasn't all Brady too. Yes, Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he went and he did that for Tampa. But he would not have the 6 championships in New England if it were not for Bill Belichick as well. It's a dual. It takes 2 to tango, right? They needed each other to be successful. It was a perfect football marriage between them. And so, yes, long story short, I want to see these players do well. I want to see greatness. I want to see good competition. Yes, I enjoy parity. Like it was refreshing having like the Bengals and the Rams in the Super Bowl last year, but we saw greatness. We saw Aaron Donald. We saw Jalen Ramsey. We saw Von Miller. We saw Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. We saw Cooper Kupp. These are great players. And Sean McVay is considered probably top 3, top 5 coach in the NFL right now. And I think that Zach Taylor might not be that, but he has proven himself as capable, a good coach. You don't just beat Kansas City 3 times without having a good coach. You just don't go to the Super Bowl without having a good coach. It takes everybody. And so let's look at these other games here. Steelers beat the Falcons, irrelevant. Just for everybody, Steelers could still have a winning season. Tomlin's losing season is not. It's not. His winning streak season is not. It's on the line, but it's not dead yet. They're 5-7, and they could still. Let's see who they got next. They play the Ravens next. That's going to be close. It's all the Ravens and Steelers, one of the best rivalries in the NFL. They will have a close game, and it's on the way the Ravens are playing. I don't know if Lamar is going to be back or not for that game because of his injury, but we will see. I do think the Ravens come out on top, but the lines, Pittsburgh's favored by 2, but let's see. I don't know if Lamar will be playing. That might be why they're favored. And the Steelers are a completely different team when they have TJ Watt. When they have TJ Watt, he brings life to the team. Him and Tomlin, that's another perfect football marriage. They are tough, like great guys. And so then they play the Panthers. That's a dub. Raiders. The Raiders are playing decent towards the end of the season right now. It could be a loss. I think that they could still, we'll see what's up. What happens with that? They could still have a winning season. I don't know. I think that all at some point or another, everything comes to an end. Just as the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak died, Tomlin's winning season streak will probably die this season, but we'll see what's up. Kenny Pickett, I don't think that he's an elite level guy like Mahomes and Allen and Herbert, because you can see he's not. But I think that he could be Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff area better. I think if I had to compare Kenny Pickett to somebody, it would be Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott and Kenny Pickett, now their playing styles may be a little different. Kenny Pickett, I think, is a little more mobile. But I think if I had to, playing styles aside, if I had to say this skill level is the same level as this skill level, just different attributes, Kenny Pickett and Dak Prescott, I think that's what Kenny could come into. That's his ceiling. And so, anyways, Packers beat the Bears. And I tweeted this yesterday on the Main Review Twitter account. The Bears, next year, will be the Eagles and what Jalen Hurts is now. Another season under the coach. We know that Justin Fields is the guy. He's the guy. We just need to get weapons around him. Claypool's a good addition. I think number one for them, I think that, okay, I always love seeing him. I need to find out who the receiver is that he throws to, who's number one. Because every time I see Justin Fields throw a touchdown to this guy, I'm like, oh yeah, 1-1-1. He's number 11 actually, because Justin Fields is number 1. All right, it's is it Montgomery? No, it's Montgomery's the running back. I'll have to go back a couple of games because this guy could have gotten hurt or something. But yeah, anyways, he is the guy. Oh, is it Mooney? Yep, Mooney. Darnell Mooney. I think Darnell Mooney's solid. That same Brown guy's looking like he's already led the team in receiving yesterday, but that was more of a day for, I think, Justin Fields' running his throwing ability. Anyways, I think obviously Justin Fields threw an absolute bomb to, I don't know who caught the ball. He stayed in the pocket. He got decked after that. He got rocked after that play. I wish I could try to find that play, but I'm not going to because that would be into the archives and I don't know. Anyways, he bombed this deep, steady in the pocket. And then right after that, not even phase. You can see, I love him, the quarterback. I heard this yesterday when quarterbacks like look and see if the guy caught it after they just got decked. They're just like looking over like, oh, on the ground. So yeah, I think Chicago next year they'll be the Eagles. Maybe not like 11-1, but I think they'll be that surprise team. I think that they will be that playoff team next year because there's always 3 at least teams from each conference that missed the playoffs from the year before, and 3 new teams that make the playoffs. So I think the Bears will be one of those teams to make the playoffs next year. And, be one of the better teams. The Lions as well. I think the Lions, they're on a little hot streak right now. Like towards the end of the season last year, they were on a hot streak. Like the last few games, they beat the Packers. They didn't have Aaron Rodgers. They beat a few other teams. They beat the Vikings. That was the first team I think that they beat last year on a last-second touchdown. But I love Dan Campbell. I will not stress it enough. I love Dan Campbell. The heart that man has, the way the players rally behind him, that is exactly what Detroit needs. Is that dude. That is the man. Regardless of scheme, regardless of anything. And he seems like he knows offense pretty well. I mean, the play calls, the offense, the Lions offense with Jared Goff is playing well. The defense is what is struggling, but they got pass rushers They got that middle linebacker with the long blonde hair, Aiden Hutchinson. I think that next year you get some people in the secondary, clean up that pass defense, some more, and I think just maybe another playmaker on offense, and you get that quarterback. Regardless if you start Jared Goff, for another year, you make the playoffs, become like a 7 wild card seed. Then, just as if when Alex Smith sat back and let Mahomes play because they traded Alex Smith to the Redskins, then Commanders now, and they um, started Mahomes. So I think that's kind of the route that the Lions should take. They should go get an elite quarterback with that Rams pick in the top 3, play golf another year, get to the playoffs, build momentum, and then that next season take that leap like the Eagles did, like the Bears did. And I hope success for Detroit. That's another thing. It's like it's like the balance. It's a balance thing. So it's like I want great players to be good, and I want them to continue to play great so we see greatness evolve over time. But at the same time, I want to see teams that haven't done well, like the Browns and Detroit. That's why it's so refreshing to have the Bengals and the Bills do well, because these are teams that have not had success, and now they're having success. And it's just like they deserve to have success. Every team at some point or another deserves to have success. And I love the way that those teams are playing. So, yeah, then we'll keep going down the list here. The Commanders and the Giants tie. I think now that we're coming to the realization at this point in the season, people started to hop on like a Daniel Jones bandwagon because of the play that he was having. He was playing well in the season. Their head coach is the one. I forget what their head coach's name is, but he is the guy at the coach. Now you go get an elite quarterback in the draft, or you sign a Garoppolo or something like that in free agency, and you see where that quarterback can take you. But I think, Brian Dable. Brian Dable is the coach. So I think now, the Commanders and the Giants tied. I think the Giants, it's hard to say if they're going to make the playoffs or not. I think that they will be that 6-7 wild card team. But we'll see how it unfolds. I definitely think, though, that now we are going to come to a realization that Daniel Jones now he's not the guy. He's not the guy. I don't think he's Kirk Cousins or even Jimmy Garoppolo level. I think he's below average, like a little below average, and we're starting to see that. And so the Ravens and the Broncos, it's so crazy, like, because I'm a Russell Wilson fan, or at least I was, and you're starting to see who he is a little more unfold, I guess, that fakeness to him that people are talking about, and his he's not a relatable guy. Half of his team goes to his birthday. He shows up, makes all this money, and he talks all this talk, like, play good football. And it's just crazy. Like, the Ravens, their quarterback gets hurt. Their Ravens are held to 10 points, and the Broncos lose 10-9. I mean, that has to be one of the top 5 or top 3 most shocking. And here's the thing. I shout out to Nick Wright, first things first. He said Mr. Limited, Mr. Unlimited. He calls him Mr. Limited to joke around. Mr. Limited, Russell Wilson, was not going to be who he was in Seattle, because Pete Carroll, mind you, Pete Carroll's a good coach. Like, he's a great coach, and I think that he needs to be given his flowers now because of this whole Broncos thing. And of course, he should have been given his flowers. Super Bowl winning head coach. He developed that defense, the Legion of Boom. However, and Russell Wilson was a good quarterback, but I think that Russell Wilson, he's got to be some sort of wash. Denver's stuck with him. They're stuck with him. Nathaniel Hackett, you just fire him, you find another head coach, and you go and you play another year and you see what you can do. They have weapons. They have receivers. Maybe one more playmaker, sign some guy or draft a receiver or something. But it's Russell Wilson. He's not playing well. They just lost to the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. That's not good. Anyways, Browns beat the Texans. We talked about that. Seahawks beat the Rams. Geno Smith almost passed it for 400 yards. And, Geno Smith, and we're going to go into this. So I was making a top 10 quarterbacks list because I had that, not realization because I already believed it, but my belief was affirmed more. Burrow better than Allen, and the Bengals are better than the Bills when the Chiefs won that. I was having a top 10 quarterback thing, and I'm like, where would Geno be? Because I was thinking of, like, the landscape. Who would you really rather have right now? Geno Smith or Kirk Cousins? I mean, really, Geno Smith or Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins, we know what Kirk Cousins is, right? And yes, Geno Smith was what he was, but now with Seattle's Geno Smith, who passes for 367 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday. And yes, he's got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But I think that's a real question. Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith. I personally think I would take Geno Smith right now. I would take based on how they're playing right now. And yes, Kirk Cousins having a great season. The Vikings are 10-2. Justin Jefferson is him. He's the best receiver in the NFL. There was another thing. Top 3 receivers in the NFL right now. My top 3. Number 1, Justin Jefferson. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. Number 3, Stephon Diggs. Those are my top 3. And yes, you have your Devontae Adams. But these players, Stephon Diggs, he elevated Josh Allen. Josh Allen was great. Josh Allen is a great quarterback. He wasn't great, quote unquote. But when Stephon Diggs arrived, that's when Josh Allen really stepped onto the scene, when he had that elite receiver. And that's why it takes 2 to tango. Every receiver, every quarterback has a receiver, and every receiver has their quarterback. Tua just needed Tyreek Hill, right? And Tyreek Hill didn't need Tua because he had Mahomes, but Tua needs his Tyreek Hill. And that makes Tua what he is. He elevates Tua, just as in Justin Jefferson elevates Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins threw a ball into triple coverage a couple of weeks ago on 4th and 20 or whatever at the very end of the game, and Justin Jefferson makes the greatest NFL catch ever, or and right next to OBJ's when they played Dallas years ago when he played for the Giants. And wow, I think Justin Jefferson is really him. But at the end, back to the regular discussion, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Garoppolo, Goff, I all put them in that same kind of bubble. And so we'll keep going down the slate. The Raiders and the Chargers. Yeah, I think that Brandon Staley is done. You need to get another coach in there. You need to get an offensive guy, just like Brian Dable's an offensive guy. He elevated Daniel Jones, even though Daniel Jones isn't the guy. And then you have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. You have Zach Taylor, offensive guy, Joe Burrow. You have Mike McDaniel, offensive guy, Tua Tagovailoa. And here's the thing. Colin Cowherd talked about this. Yes, Brandon Staley is a defensive guy, but you have all these defensive players, and where's the results? Where you just gave up 27 points to the Raiders? And yes, they have Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, but you go back and look at their games. I mean, you gave up 24 to the Cardinals. They're not having a good season. 30 to the Chiefs. The Chiefs 22 to the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they gave up 37 to the Seahawks. The Broncos had one of their highest scoring games, 16 on the Chargers. Browns scored 28 points. With Jacoby Brissett. And here's the thing. It's just like, if he's a defensive coach, where are the defensive results with Joey Bosa? And what's the guy? Khalil Mack. And they have other defensive talent. Their safety, whoever their safety is. Forget the name of their safety. But anyways, I think that Brandon Staley this season, he's done. You go out there, you get an offensive coach, young guy, just like these other, Kyle Shanahan for the San Francisco 49ers, Sean McVay for the Rams. These are the teams that are finding success in the NFL now. And you need to go and find that. And I think it's cool, the coaching trees as well. So look at Miami and the Vikings, right? So Miami has a head coach, Mike McDaniel, who was the offensive coordinator of Kyle Shanahan's 49ers last year. They were in the NFC title game. Sean McVay, his offensive coordinator was Kevin O'Connell, the head coach for the Vikings. They went to the Rams, won the Super Bowl last year. There's a trend in the NFL. You get your star quarterback, Justin Herbert. You go get your offensive head coach, young guy, and then watch the results blossom into what they are. Now, however, Colin also made a good point where he talked about, Bill Belichick, right? Mac Jones isn't the guy, right? But you tell me Bill Belichick thinks that Mac Jones is really him. He's not. And he knows he's not him, right? And yes, Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, so he can elevate Mac Jones, but only to a certain level, only to a certain ceiling. And I think that Mac Jones more or less is kind of along that Daniel Jones type of area as well. That below average, not totally Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith bubble, but right under average, below average. So Bill Belichick, Brand Staley gets fired. I mean, Bill Belichick is a defensive coach, but he is the greatest coach of all time. You put him in San Diego, or not San Diego, Los Angeles with the Chargers. I think that that's a real possibility, and I think that's a real thing that Bill Belichick should think about. I don't know exactly what kind of offensive coordinators are now out there. I think that you take a look at after the season if you're the Chargers. You may not even make the playoffs. I mean, you just lost to the Vegas and they're in your same division and they're now only a game behind you in your division. I don't even think that the Chargers aren't even in the playoff picture right now. Yeah, they're the 9 seed. The New England's ahead of them. Yeah, I just think you got to get rid of Brandon Staley. I do admire his going forward on fourth down, and of course, people are going to be like, "Oh, well, he shouldn't go for it on fourth down all the time." Oh, we like it on when he gets it on fourth down. Yeah, when he gets it, you're going to root for it. You're going to want him to go for it on fourth down. But if he doesn't get the fourth down, of course, you're going to say it's bad. It's whatever happens. But I think that in certain situations, it's better to do it than others. But if you have Justin Herbert, I like how he puts his trust in his quarterback because he is the guy you pay the big bucks at the end of the day. He's the guy you pay to go get that fourth down. And so I just think that, Brandon Staley for his risky coaching, not that that's going to get him fired, but his lack of results, that is what will get him fired. And maybe he'll give him another year. I think he's done, but we'll see. I mean, you can't just if you're the Chargers front office and you see all of these other young quarterbacks and all these offensive coordinators coming over being head coaches and watching these teams thrive like the Dolphins and the who else the Vikings with their head coaches, offensive head coaches. Now, obviously Denver's the exception because they hired an offensive head coach, but now that if you think about it, you were seeing that Matt LaFleur, this is the Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur's Green Bay Packers now, right? And Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams the last 2 seasons, and he won those MVPs not because of Devontae Adams, but because he had receivers he could trust, so he would be more comfortable in his play in the regular season. But I think we're seeing that Matt LaFleur is not that offensive guy. I mean, he came from Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee, they've had success, but Ryan Tannehill's offensive result, yes, he may or may not elevated Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is playing the same now as if he was when Matt LaFleur was on the team or not. And Nathaniel Hackett, what was he really doing for Green Bay? I mean, you had Matt LaFleur who was probably calling plays. And then Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of the top 5, top 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Nathaniel Hackett, you have to have a head coach where you know that they're elevating players. Nathaniel Hackett's not elevating Aaron Rodgers, and clearly we can see that because he's like de-elevating. He's de-elevating Russell Wilson. I mean, that's just awful. So yeah, we'll keep going down the slate of games here. The Cowboys beat the Colts 54-19. The Indianapolis Jeff Saturdays lose by 35 points. Now, I think when it comes to the Cowboys, they're like I talked about this in the MMMORE podcast. They are the Notre Dame of the NFL. Except I think it's different this year because I think that they have a real shot at winning the Super Bowl as long as they live up to their level of play in the playoffs. But it's funny because I think that they're the Notre Dame of the NFL because Notre Dame and the Cowboys are always expected to have these championship level teams every year, right? Their expectations are always a little higher than they should be, right? Even though we know what they are. And I think that's because of their brand. The Notre Dame brand, the Cowboys brand. Naturally, the NFL and the NCAA want them to play well because it's better for making money. You'll make more money if Notre Dame is in the national championship because of their fan base in the Super Bowl. For the Cowboys, if they're in, and people want that to happen because they'll do better. What's going to be a bigger Super Bowl? The Cowboys, or let's say the Seattle, right? Who do you want to see? This really, that's the collective population probably would want to watch the Cowboys playing Super Bowl more because they are the bigger brand. But I do think that the Cowboys this year will win a playoff game or two. They're going to play the Brady and the Bucks. It's funny because it's going to be interesting to see what Brady does. Will he stay in Tampa for another year? I think that's a possibility. Obviously, Will he go to another team like, say, a 49ers? Possibly. The 49ers almost traded for him years ago. Why wouldn't they go pick him up now? I think that now that Brady's divorced, what's stopping him from playing until 50? I mean, really. I mean, if he wants to play until 50 years old now, he can do that. And I think he's capable of that very much so. Will he perform at an elite level? No, maybe. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's still playing good. Like, he's still playing good football. Yes, the team isn't that playing that well right now. The reasons for that being, who knows exactly, whether that's offensive production, just on the offensive line. I mean, really, is it the coaching, Todd Bowles taking over for Bruce Arians? I don't know. I think that Brady's still got more in him. And I'm not going to say Brady's done until he's literally done. What, he retires and everyone's like, oh, he's done. Then he comes back, okay? People say he's done when he was playing for New England the last couple of seasons, goes to Tampa Bay, wins the Super Bowl his first year. I'm not saying that Tom Brady's done until he is done. Okay, so we're going to end it off with top 10 NFL quarterbacks really quick. Okay, give me just 1 second here. I'm going to pull up my list. All right, so top 10 quarterbacks. Okay, we're going to run through the list really quick. My friend Joe Money's got to get in the shower. So, all right. So, some of it's in order, some of it's kind of not in order. This is just kind of what I'm seeing landscape-wise, top 10 quarterbacks right now. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if he just lost to the Bengals for a third straight time. Patrick Mahomes has a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. Every single AFC championship has been through Arrowhead. Yes, he has Andy Reid. Yes, he has weapons, but through in and throughout, Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Number 2, Joe Burrow. And this is what the reason for that being. Takes the Bengals, dysfunctional organization, his second year. After his first year getting hurt halfway through the season, he goes and wins the Super Bowl. Not wins Super Bowl, goes to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, number 2. Josh Allen, number 3. Josh Allen, I think, is under Burrow just because Burrow has done a little more with a little less organization-wise. And yes, he's got Jamar Chase and some other weapons, but so does Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And I think that Allen is more athletic. As Herbert, you see where I'm going next with this. But Burrow, they're all very close. Mahomes is right here, Burrow's right here, and then Allen's like right there, like right underneath. And then Justin Herbert, because of just his athletic ability, comes in, and no matter what of the average team the Chargers are, he's still very good. And then I have Lamar right under that because of his just unique capabilities, his unique play style. He is just one in a generation, one in an all-time player, Lamar Jackson. So then I have Jalen Hurts because of the success and because of the dynamic capabilities that he has right now. And this list is based on how they're playing right now. Their skill set, their tangibles, their intangibles, how they are right now. Not all time, just right now. So I got Hurts after Lamar. Then I got Brady, Rodgers. And I'm putting Brady ahead of Rodgers just because obviously Brady is better than Rodgers. And Brady is having a better season than Rodgers because his team's actually going to make the playoffs regardless of their record. They're still going to make the playoffs. Dak after Rodgers. Because as much as I think, as good as I think Dak is, he's still limited. He's still in that Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, maybe a little better than them guys. And then after Dak, I have really Geno or Tua. Okay, now I understand that Tua's playing in a really good level right now, but I think as we saw yesterday in that San Francisco game, what Tua really is. Okay, he is a good quarterback, but he is going to still remain in that Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins bubble of talent. So Geno or Tua, Geno's playing in at a very high level right now. And so really, if you put Geno in that Miami system, can he do the same as Tua? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. So one more time, it's Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Hurts, Brady, Rodgers, Dak, and then Geno or Tua. That's what I have them. All right, guys. Great. I loved doing this first episode. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I didn't touch on the college football playoff or any NBA, but we're going to end it off with that NFL top 10 QBs. Thank you guys for listening in, and check us out on the MMMORE Instagram page, our MMMORE YouTube channel, and then also follow the Main Review Twitter account. That's where I'm going to, be talking and posting some videos as well, some small clips of just things I've, thinking, trying to get in on the NFL and the NBA conversations, as well as some college football as well. So feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share this. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say as well. Let's have some debates. Let's hear your guys' opinions about all this. And thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your Monday, and peace out.